Welcome to Know Your Mobile. I'm Basil and we've got two phones here today that we're comparing for you. We've got the Nokia Lumia 920 and the Sony Xperia Z. The Sony Xperia Z was recently announced at CES 2013 in Vegas. It's a beautiful device thanks to its glass front and back. It's also very, very capable. Not only is it waterproof, but it also packs quad-core specs. That's a Snapdragon S4 processor and a gorgeous 13 megapixel camera. It's the new Sony RS sensor, that's XMOR RS, which is capable of HDR video recording. But not to be outdone, Nokia's Lumia 920 is still a pioneer in the video and photo stakes thanks to its optical image stabilization on its camera. We're going to give you a quick comparison of the two devices to show you exactly how they spec up against one another. And we're going to kick off with the design, and both these devices are larger than your normal devices. The Sony Xperia Z packs a larger screen, however as a device on the whole it's still smaller. At just 6.9 millimeters, it's considerably thicker than the altogether beefier Nokia Lumia 920. On the front of both devices are the fascia. There are on-screen buttons on the Lumia 920, whereas the on the Sony Xperia Z, whereas the Lumia 920 packs 3 capacitive buttons below the 4.5-inch display, in contrast to the 5-inch display on the Sony Xperia Z. To the left side of the Xperia Z is a power button and a volume rocker, and to the right side no buttons whatsoever, just flaps for the micro SD card slot and the micro USB port. On the right side of the Lumia 920, volume rocker, power button and a physical 2-stage camera button with no buttons to the left. Up at the top, both devices have a 3.5mm headphone jack with a micro SIM card slot on the Lumia 920. Down below, and there are no ports on the Sony Xperia Z, whereas the Lumia 920 has its micro USB port there. Flipping the devices round and you've got the predictable cameras and flashes. All in all, both phones feel really nice in the hand in their own way. The Nokia Lumia 920 is much more curvaceous and is pretty forgiving, bar the sharp corners which dig into the hand a little bit. Without such sharp corners, but a much more angular feel overall. The Sony Xperia Z is more to handle. It, despite being thinner, is considerably more square. It doesn't feel quite as ergonomic. However, it is lighter and it's a little bit more elegant, we're not going to lie. As far as the screens go, both these devices pack the same screen tech, and that's LCD displays. The Sony Xperia Z's Full HD, whereas the Lumia 920 720p. Pixel density on the Lumia 920 is still very high thanks to its smaller screen size, and we're definitely going to say that despite the Full HD display on the Sony Xperia Z, you're not going to be wanting for anything if you do go with the Lumia 920. The Lumia 920 has a bunch of really cool features as well that enable the touchscreen to work with your nail, for example, hypersensitive touchscreen. There are various other things that make the screen really stand out. Again, not to be outdone, the Sony Xperia Z packs its Sony Bravia screen technology and something called optic contrast, which is effectively a resin layer that is between the glass and the LCD display, and it produces great viewing angles and a gorgeous overall viewing experience. And we can attest to that. It does look great in the hand. Onto the operating systems, and both of these phones pack extremely different OSs. You've got Windows Phone 8 on the Nokia Lumia 920. This is the newest version from Microsoft, and it's quite tapered in terms of its functionality thanks to the lack of app support. There are some key apps, don't get us wrong, there's WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff, but you're definitely going to be wanting, if you're used to the Instagram, Pinterest, all that stuff available on Android and iOS. So there you go, that's major differences in terms of app support between the two. The Lumia 920 just can't compete with the Xperia Z and its Android on board. As far as operation goes, however, the Lumia 920 is considerably simpler. You just have two home screens, one with your shortcuts and the other with a list of all your applications. The applications can be pinned to the home screen with a long press, and it's really as easy as that. There's not much more to get your head around. There are a few omissions in terms of key UI functionality, such as a notifications bar, so you can occasionally miss calls and text messages and emails. However, if you don't need to be up to the minute connected all the time and aware of everything going on your phone, you should find the operating system very easy on the eye and simple to get your head around. Android, in contrast, is comprised of multiple home screens. It's a lot busier, and there's a lot more that you can do with it. And in turn, you might not want to jump for Android if you get confused by operating systems on your mobile very easily. Once you do get your head around Android, though, the sky is the limit, so we'd really recommend doing so. In terms of the cameras, the Nokia Lumia 920 packs an 8.9, I think, or almost a 9 megapixel sensor with the optical image stabilization. There's a 13 megapixel sensor on the Xperia Z. We can show you the optical image stabilization in action on the Lumia 920, and it really is fantastic. So if we take a picture, for example, we can see I'm shaking my hand on purpose. As soon as I half press on the actual camera button, you can see it minimizes handshake greatly, and that's because it has a floating lens element. It's the same technology as found on compact system cameras. The the Xperia Z, however's forte really lies in terms of its HDR video and Sony's new interface that it's implemented on the camera UI. Windows Phone's camera UI, which is what you'll get on this Nokia Lumia 920, is extremely limiting in terms of its core functionality. You won't get any of that with the Xperia Z. The Xperia Z's user interface is totally extensive. You can tweak the Jesus out of your pictures. There's also a great burst mode that lets you capture pictures at 10 frames per second. That's phenomenal. It competes with SLRs at the resolution that we're talking about. What you can also find on the Sony Xperia Z camera is HDR video. HDR video is is when you record 3 scenes, one one at a higher exposure, one at a lower exposure, then it composites them together. What this results in is a more broad tonal shot. So HDR video is very memory and processor intensive, and it takes a Sony Xperia Aura sensor to do it. It makes the video look great and perfect for all situations, including backlit situations. So they're the key differences in terms of the cameras. Moving on to the final part, and that is processor, and the Sony Xperia Z wins out hands down thanks to the quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon S4. There's a dual-core S4 in the Nokia Lumia 920, and with Windows Phone 8 being a very efficient operating system, we're going to throw it out there that you're probably, well, almost definitely not going to experience any slowdown on it. But if you want that 3D gaming, if you want all that power in your phone to really show off what it can do, then it's the Xperia Z all the way. So it's been a comparison between the Sony Xperia Z and the Nokia Lumia 920. The Sony Xperia Z's forte is really D-Line, its operating system. It is weatherproofed as well, by the way, we didn't mention that. So it's submergible in water for up to 30 minutes at 1 meter. It's also got a great camera UI, which is totally malleable. The Nokia Lumia 920, in contrast with its unibody design, it's much more stylized and stand out. It's a bit bulky, we're not going to lie. But if you can deal with it and you want the optical image stabilization, which is going to be perfect for low light shooting, then the Lumia 920 is really the only phone on the market to offer that. Thanks for watching Know Your Mobile.